So this is the boat. It's not exactly the boat, but it's a 54-foot Amel, which is a French-built boat. Because I was mostly on the vessel, I don't have a lot of photos of her from this angle. So while we're here on this first slide, I'm going to just share with you a few of the different sails that we have on this boat. So 54-foot fiberglass French-built Amel. This sail right here is called the mizzen. This one right here is the Maine. This is our Genoa, and then right here would be our staysail. So this is really almost the last photo that you're going to see of the full boat. So it's kind of why I'm starting out that way. I've had the good fortune of sailing several different types of Amels over the years, and the word that I have for this boat is outstanding, and you'll know more why as we go along. I also wanted to just share with you this. When I think about planet Earth, I think about adventure, and when I see it from this perspective, and I see all of that blue, it just makes me think about all the places that I would like to sail on this planet. I've had very good fortune in my life that I've sailed many places. But this time I decided to start down here and take the very long way across the Atlantic. You'll see in some of my other slides, the majority of the people start here, go to the Bermuda, and then do a pop over. So there were moments on my adventure where it really hit me that I took the longest way across. So my sailing career really started here in Maine. This is a pulling boat. This is a 30-foot sprit rigged ketch. Many of you who live here in Maine have likely seen these, but these are the boats that we used at Outward Bound. So this is where I really learned how to sail. You'll notice that there's about 13 to 15 people on this boat, and 30 feet is not that long. And I taught for most of my 20s courses between 5 days and 28 days. So I really lived in a minimal way on these boats. And really this is really where I cut my teeth and really learned how to sail. You'll notice that there's no outboard, so there's no propulsion other than oars, or you're sailing, or you have a very oversized anchor to spend the night on. So before I sailed across the Atlantic, I had also been given an opportunity to sail with some friends in the Florida Keys. I taught for Outward Bound for nearly 18 years, and the base in Florida, which is where I spent my winters, probably close to 15 winters in the Florida Keys, was closing. And so some friends of mine and I decided to do a 7-day trip. And this is not a pulling boat, but this was the boat that came after this version at Outward Bound. And so, this is a 30-foot boat, still fiberglass built. It's called the Sharpie. It has 2 masts, and you'll see here an engine has been added to it. So a friend of mine owns this boat, and I'm sharing this story with you because I want you to see the contrast of the 2 different vessels that I sailed in about a 6-week period. So this boat, again, 2 masts, 2 anchors in front, and then a little outboard. This typically carries 8 people, and there were 7 of us for this trip. So Florida Keys, we left Big Pine Key, sailed up to Marquesas, which is about 30 miles off of Key West, and did a big loop back through the backcountry. This is just another shot of this boat, and again, just to share with you the simplicity of these vessels. These things right here are lockers, so all of your personal items live inside of these, inside of a dry bag. So there's not a lot of comfort on these vessels. This is a picture of us cooking. So we're cooking in the stern. This is the stove, and this is me getting to the spice kit. And also our food lives in these buckets. So very minimalist. This is us sailing her. She sealed over quite a bit right here for that boat, but Another thing to just share with you all is that when it rains, you put your foul weather gear on. When it gets cold, you put on more layers. When you get hot, you look like Sarah. And you're just living out there in the elements, which this boat is fantastic. She also draws 12 inches. So what that means is that you can sail in water that is a foot or less. So a lot of flexibility on where you can go. The backcountry at the Florida Keys, the average water depth is 3 feet. So you can go places that no one else can go. This is how we sleep on the boats. This is kind of a terrible photo, but it was the only one that I had from the trip. I don't know why it's tilted. The boat wouldn't be tilted. It's my camera expertise, but we put out these boards. You grab your sleeping pad and your sleeping bag. And if you don't think that it's going to rain, you don't set the tarp up. So this night we did not set the tarp up. And then the most important part of the day is coffee in the morning. You can see that the boards, people have not put their stuff away, but we are back here making coffee, which is attached to this propane stove. So very simple beginnings for me. And then I've been fortunate enough to be able to sail kind of all over the place on all different sorts of boats. So I ended this trip in Big Pine Key. I drove to Miami, and then I flew to Martinique. So Miami is kind of up in here, direct flight down here to Martinique. So going back to that globe photo, just choosing the longest way possible across the Atlantic. So the reason that we were in Martinique is French. The MLs are French-built boats. And the boat was purchased in Grenada, sailed by its new owner from Australia and his wife, up to day sailing up to Martinique. And then in Martinique, Amel has a kind of workshop where a bunch of work was done to the boat before we sailed across the Atlantic. So that's why we started in Martinique. And this is just kind of this is the marina that we were in, which was called Les Marines, and this is the outer anchorage, and then this is all of the slips. An incredibly popular marina, and one of the best French bakeries that I've been in ever was there. So we were stuck. Stuck is maybe a strong word. We left 5 days later than we thought we were going to. So having an amazing French bakery as well as other amenities was super fun. So this is us in Martinique. This is Bill, who is the captain who hired me. Bill and I were colleagues at OCSC in Berkeley, California for many, many years, and also good friends. This is his partner, Karen, who opted out of sailing across the Atlantic, so I got her seat, which was great. Bill and I have done some deliveries together. One of Annie and I's first deliveries was with Bill and Karen on their amount. So I feel like I know these photos so well, so I want to show you the things that you're not seeing. So each day I would go to the boat. I was staying on Bill and Karen's boat, and I'd walk over and I would sit in the aft corner of the vessel, and I would sometimes call Annie and say, more things are being taken apart than being put together. So each day around 2 p.m. we decided that, again, we were not leaving that day. So then I would go back to the boat and then arrive the next morning. But if you look here, this is our most forward head sail, which is our Genoa, which we sailed the most with. Right here is a little engine, and that engine allows you to control the setting and the striking of the sail from the cockpit. And then you'll notice here is our staysail, which is our tinier sail, but there's no sail quite yet on her. So she's still in the shop. So she needed a fresh cut. This is pretty much what I saw of Martinique, which is the marina. I also would say that even in April, Martinique was too hot for me. I was pretty hot and miserable. and not a lot of wind deep inside of the marina. So when we decided that we were leaving, I was beyond ecstatic. Okay, so this is the inside of sail vessel Tifara. And I'll just note a couple of things. Other things you might not see, there were Post-its everywhere, and there were Post-its on all of the lockers and cabinets and such, because the owner's wife was on board and did the majority of our cooking and our provisioning. So she had provisioned the vessel and then left Post-its everywhere to where the stuff actually was. And I found that to be, at one point I took them all down, and I was tired of looking at it. But if you look up forward right there, that thing is going to look familiar to you. Contrast to the Sharpie and the pulling boat, but in the forward head, there's a washer and dryer, which is just kind of unique. Also these two seats, which I think I have a better photo of them. Yeah, these seats were kind of awesome. You don't see this a lot on vessels, but we were primarily on a starboard tack, which meant we were getting projected out of those seats no matter how much you wedged yourself in. Those pillows quickly went away. But so this is, I think we're still at the dock here, but a lot of good reading happened in those chairs. Just another shot of kind of the galley and the salon. This is a dishwasher. We have a microwave, we have a generator, and we have a water maker. So this boat is equipped for a couple to sail around the world. That's the kind of beauty of Amel boats. It can be handled easily is a loose term, by two people, and has all of the amenities that you would want anywhere on the planet, as long as you're tied up or willing to start a generator. Tied up, what I mean by that is tied up, plugged in, so that you can use as much electricity as you'd like to use. So on board, there was me, and I was hired by Bill, who I mentioned is a colleague of mine from OCSC, California Days. And then the owner, who, David, was a retired vascular surgeon from Australia who had just purchased a boat in Grenada. And then his son-in-law, Josh, who is about my age. And so it was the four of us, and Josh and Bill mostly slept on these two salon seats just because of the conditions. I'll show you where I slept in just a moment. And then the aft, about the fifth of the vessel is the aft cabin, which is the captain's quarters. And for all the reasons you can think of, I don't have any photos of that. But this is my home, and this is where I lived for about 30 days. So a couple of things to note: this piece of cloth right here is called a lee cloth, and it keeps you in your bunk, depending on which tack you're on. And then, in part because of the adventure that I was on before, but also there's oftentimes not a lot of storage on vessels. You're gonna soft pack when you're flying, and these are a bunch of soft bags, soft dry bags. Not only are they good for being able to lay flat and store, but in addition to that, I would fill them and then wedge myself in depending on which tack we were on, so that I wasn't rolling around. This cabin is almost all the way as far forward or the front of the boat that you can go to, which means that it has the most kind of slapping and slamming. So the most that if you can wedge yourself in and maybe wear earplugs, you have a chance of sleeping. Okay, so just another picture of the Amel. This is again our head sail. This is our Genoa. We mostly sailed 90% of the time when we were sailing. We sailed with just the Genoa and the mizzen. So she's a very, very large sail. The mainsail is pretty small in comparison to the Genoa. The mizzen we used for stability, and the mizzen and the main both were furled into the mast, which I would say, I don't know, 15 years ago for me, that became something that was much more common than it was 15 plus years ago. Lots of pros and cons that you can imagine, but just sometimes need to be handled very gingerly and very aware, so that she doesn't get stuck in, and worse than that, get stuck out. And we did have some things break. Some of the things that broke, the water maker broke about 3 days in, and we were able to repair it. And then actually the outhaul line on the mainsail broke after the Azores, and we got it most of the way back in, and then we just left it because we didn't really need it. So. This is just another shot of the boat. Because I was on a delivery, if we were going less than 3 knots, we would start the engine, which I was also really grateful for. It would have taken me much longer if we didn't start the engine. And let's just say it was a 30-day trip. I would say about 5 of those days we were full on motoring, day and night. Some things to note about this particular photo is this is a hard top, and I could be wearing exactly what I'm wearing right now at almost any given time sailing this boat, and I would stay dry. I'll show you in the future some more photos of the cockpit, but this hard top kept me dry, kept all of us dry, and then this soft top as well. So even sailing close hauled and 35 knots breeze, there wasn't a fleck of salt water on me. Watch systems. I because of the photos that I shared with you earlier of living out of your bag and putting it into these lockers or having 13 individuals around you, it taught me to be a very, very, very tidy sailor. So I would come onto my watch with my canvas shopping bag, and I have a layer. I have water. Of course, you have to have coffee. I didn't crop it in, but some sunglasses, and then I put a bunch of snacks in my bag. So watch systems, because there was 4 of us, I was on for 4 hours and off for 12. And so if you let that set in, it was a luxurious cruise for me, because you had 12 hours to sleep, eat, use the bathroom, read a book. What is much more typical is 3 hours on, 3 hours off, 3 hours on, 3 hours off. So this was luxurious for many, many reasons. So to a trained eye, you could look at this squiggle and say, what happened, what went awry. This is our GPS, and this is what went awry. We passed a weather buoy, and we intentionally slowed down the boat so we'd pass this weather buoy at about 7 a.m. and we caught 4 fish, but we only landed 1 tuna. So we sailed. I didn't get a good photo of the weather buoy, but this is us circling around the weather buoy a couple times to make sure that we didn't leave that area without a fish. And the significance of a weather buoy and why would we want to fish there, it's a stationary object that fish are attracted to, especially we were probably, I don't know, 350 miles from Martinique, so there's not a lot out there. That's where they gather, that's where they eat, and we knew they would be there. So this is Josh and Bill. We had lines rigged off, the davits here, and we have 2 hand reels because we were traveling and flying, so we didn't fly with kind of traditional trolling rods. So that was taken in hand over hand by these guys. This is the tuna, and we ate that tuna for 4 nights in a row. So that was kind of fun. So this is really what sailing across the Atlantic looks like. There was a lot of reading, and you'll notice that they're both connected very much to devices, and I'll share a little bit more about that. You can see both of them are bracing so that they don't get kind of shoved out of their seats. And this device right here is created by Elon Musk, and it's called a Starlink. It's the marine version, and we were incredibly well connected the entire time because of this little device right here. So I say this to a lot of folks when I talk about this trip, but all four of us could have been watching Netflix in our bunks and it would have been a non-issue, all because of this. So I've never experienced that in my life on a plane or on a sailboat. And it's two-sided, like it keeps you so well connected. It did allow me to WhatsApp with Annie, which was quite excellent, but we did not take it even the next step, which we could have video called each other, but I really wanted to be present. And I think this thing makes you a little bit less present when you're out there. So you had to self-control how much connection you would have to the outer world. So, again, we took the longest way across, and then also this is the prevailing breeze, which we're heading in that direction, which means that we didn't necessarily pick the easiest route. So what this says to me is that we have the potential to be sailing close hauled or close reach, which means that the wind is coming about 45 degrees off of the bow, which leads to greater heeling, which is the tilting, and then well, at least for a lot of things. So one of the things that we did do was when we left Martinique, we came almost all the way up to Bermuda, and then we crossed over. So we sailed more nautical miles than we needed to, but we created angles that were greater comfort for us overall. And there was only twice that we saw more than 35 knots of wind. One time, close hauled, incredibly uncomfortable, about 48 hours. And then the second time, we were on a broad reach, which means the wind was coming off of our stern, and night and day, just totally, like that boat could easily sail in 50 knots downwind, and you wouldn't really notice that it was that big of a breeze. So the direction of the direction of the wind hitting the vessel really affects your ride. So I just picked this up today just because I was Googling transatlantic stuff, and these are kind of preferred, or maybe not preferred, but common routes. And so similar, we came almost up to Bermuda and then across here to the Azores. So we did not do even, just like that straightest line, so to speak. At one point I was like, oh, we should just stop in Maine real quick before we do the rest of this. But just the Azores are here, the Canary Islands, and then Cape Verde. I have sailed to the Canaries before from Southampton, England. I used to teach these hour-bound courses on these larger boats, and we took the students down to the Canaries, and that's where we ended, of course, 1 year. So we talked a little bit about Starlink and how we were able to use that to stay connected. And this is also how we got our weather. So at 7 a.m. and 3 p.m. The weather is updated. This is an app called Windy. I really love Windy. We used a combination of Windy and Predict Wind to navigate across. And this will show greater wind, the color changes, it didn't make it onto here, and then also these little arrows will show the direction. So the wind direction was this most of the time, so we came up and then over to the Azores. And this is just to demonstrate that we were not alone out there, as much as you kind of felt like it at times. This is just a snapshot of AIS. AIS, again, I would say even in the last 12 years, it's really become a cruising tool. It's definitely been more of a commercial tool, but now it's become more of a cruising tool or recreational. And all of these are boats. You'll see another slide in a little bit here of me in traffic off of Vigo. But This AIS is the automated indicating system, and you can have it on your vessel, and it will give all the details of your boat, like what's your length, are you commercial, are you pleasure, how many people are on board, what's your destination, and then two other really important pieces, which is how fast are you going and what is your heading, and that is part of the decision making that happens when you're sitting in the cockpit when you are getting closer to some of these boats. So yeah, I really like this slide. And then here's cooking. As I said, his wife did most of the provisioning and also the cooking. So every morning, David would pull 4 baggies out of the freezer, and it would be a different type of food that she had prepared. And we would kind of eat the same thing every night as each other, but we never really ate together. And so breakfast for me was coffee, for them was cereal and yogurt. And then lunch was kind of snacking, whether it's tinned fish or cheese or crackers. And then dinner was whatever she had prepared. And then at some point I started supplementing with like rice and pasta because I needed a little bit more. But this is how you cook. There's these 2 little brackets right here that keep your pots from going fore and aft. And then the oven and the stove are gimbaled, so depending on what tack you are on and what the degrees of your healing is, it sometimes can be quite like this or quite like this. So let's see the video. I said yes to this trip because I wanted ocean landscape, and I really wanted to be immersed in this for as long as possible for my own happiness and decision making and self-reflection. So I took a bunch of videos. Some of them were too long for me to upload. So here we are. This is always a big deal when you actually have land back on your radar or back on your chart plotter. So this is us approaching the Azores. The Azores are made up of 9 islands total. We went to San Miguel, and then specifically Punta Delgado is the largest island of the 9 islands. So as you can imagine, they get a lot of ship traffic because of their location. They are not incredibly touristy, which is fantastic. They're still very much rely on fishing, dairy farming, agriculture, and marine research. So I'm going to show you some more photos, but I highly recommend if you have an opportunity in your life to go to the Azores, to go to the Azores. This is us approaching, and this is David. This is David and this is Josh, and their faces kind of sum it up of how we were feeling with as we approached. Like any good island, you can oftentimes smell it before you can see it, and you can smell the cow. That cow's lived there. So this is us getting closer. Very, very little rain on our trip, but of course, each time that we pulled in either to the Azores or Spain, it was pouring. So this is us continuing to approach and kind of that class. The Azores are Portuguese, and but there's a lot of English that's spoken. So again, just another shot, kind of that deep green behind these beautiful white buildings. And then this is a man-made wall. Kind of looks like those toys that kids play with, but these are all the same shape, and they kind of just crumble into each other to make this protective barrier for this town. Okay. That's Bill and I, very happy to have arrived. And the sail from Martinique to the Azores was kind of the big chunk. Post this onto Vigo, it wasn't quite that feeling of like, none of us had sailed across the Atlantic before. We were all incredibly proud of ourselves, and also delighted to be on shore. So this is us alongside. We're fueling up. There's Bill sitting there fueling, and just another shot of the boat. So we got in, we fueled up, and I think we might have taken on water, but we also had a water maker, which we made a lot of water. Another shot of the boat. And then I love this photo because it really embodies kind of how you are all feeling, this kind of pure delight of having arrived. And we were just so proud of ourselves. It's kind of a blurry photo, but the Azores are volcanic, so a lot of the streets and a lot of the structures are made out of volcanic rock. Just incredibly beautiful plazas, and I very much like the European culture of a lot of time spent outdoors in plazas with kids and dogs and families. We did a lot of that. I also really liked this picture. This is kind of close to the marina that we were in. We ended up seeing pilot whales at some point, and then I think this is the dolphin, although I don't know what kind it is that we saw quite a bit of. Not a ton of birds out there. Dolphins were the primary, and 2 different sightings of whales. But speaking of friends, we've got some flying fish here on the deck, which is kind of fun to always see them. And then a little squid. I love the portion of its eye to the rest of its body. And then a couple more flying fish. But for the most part, we didn't see a lot of other vessels, nor did we see a ton of marine life. But we did get sunrise and sunset almost every day. These are just kind of a series of photos that I would try and be on deck for sunrise and sunset, just to have that experience. And another one here. This is the dolphin video, so you're gonna come in right in here. And a lot of times at the bow, if you leave the cockpit, you need to wear a harness and a tether, so it kept you from leaving the cockpit just on a whim. So a bad sunset photo, but also demonstrating that you're staying dry no matter what's coming over the bow of the boat. So also it opened up, which is a great feature for when you're motoring, just to let some cool air in to the cockpit when you can. So spent a lot of time in this chair. So for me, being on watch 4 hours is my job is to sail the boat as well and as safely as possible for 4 hours. There's my watch bag. And yeah, we just spent a lot of time in the cockpit. So this is just another video of a pretty calm day in the cockpit. Once Jim asked me if I was going to give a talk, I tried to accelerate taking photos and videos. So, but it's such a funny thing. The other morning I was reflecting on the fact that all the photos that I'm sharing with you, it looks like very easy and calm. And it's because my phone was not out when it was blowing 35. So this is like, oh, looks pretty easy. And the photos I am sharing are. I just don't have any photos of big wind. Another sunset. This is Josh. So I would say if we broke it into thirds, the first third was incredibly hot. The second third was perfect, and then it started to get colder as we approached Spain. So this is Josh starting to put on his foul weather gear as we got closer to Europe. So I'm gonna just go back real quick. So just that's the wheel that I think I touched like maybe twice. So it's all autopilot. So you can fall off 1 degree, or you can use the knob and fall off 10 or 15 at a time. Also, all of the sheets, and the winches are led to this part of the cockpit, which means that you don't have to leave the cockpit to set or strike a sail, which makes it an incredibly safe vessel. And we did the majority of our steering, including tacking and jibing, by just falling off 45 or 60 degrees. And to me, it kind of turns into a video game here, that you want to maximize your speed. So if I come up 2 degrees, am I improving my speed, or am I hindering it? So I really enjoy kind of the art of sailing that way, and trying to just maximize it. So this is us leaving the Azores. I happened to be driving when we left, so I kind of kept us close, and I really enjoyed these tiny little villages, these steep cliffs, and it's impelling me to want to go back in the future. Just incredibly beautiful. So yeah, these like towns, like, or villages, I should say, and these just amazing cliffs. And then onward to Spain. So here we are. Vigo is up here. So the prevailing wind is north to south. So at some point we turned up, and then we're able to head over. We're also, the prevailing wind doesn't mean that it's always coming from that direction. You do get moments of it coming more from the easterly or westerly direction that you can use to kind of ride off the coast. So this is, I liked it, but we're going through the traffic zone, so to speak, as we're heading into Spain, and all these little blue things are boats. This is us. There's one there. There's 3. They're just all around. So I remember taking a photo and texting Annie and saying, like, this is my world right now. You can see a little bit of the zigzag in our course here, trying to avoid. And then it got worse, and then I put my phone down, so I didn't take a photo of it when it got more challenging. And the screen is dark, which means that it's nighttime, so just makes everything a little bit more heightened, but I kind of love the thrill of that. And this is what they look like. So all of those little blue triangles are big boats. So they can't stop, and their turning radius is not much. This is just a night watch video. I had the 8 to midnight, the 4 to 8, and the noon to 4 watch, and I really enjoyed my evening watches the most because nobody came into the cockpit. It was just me and the boat. My noon to 4 watch, you typically had more company. So this is us approaching Vigo, and there, I think it's called like the Faroe Islands. I'm forgetting if anybody knows, but there's a series of islands kind of outside of the river, and you go up the river a bit to get to Vigo. But I think they're like equivalent to national parks, and there's no structures out there, but there's a lot of ferry boats that will bring folks out during the day. So just another shot, and you can see, of course, we're going into port, so it's raining. And this was an early morning. Both of our entrances, we kind of had to slow the boat down to arrive in daylight. So when you haven't been to a port before, you just make your life a little bit easier by slowing down the boat and arriving when there's daylight. It reminded me a lot of San Francisco, the style of bridge, the tremendous amount of fog, the rain, the temperature, and also kind of the hills. Vigo comes straight out of the ocean. It's a very hilly city. It also holds the largest fishing fleet in Europe. So this is us coming in. This is Josh, a little morning ferry, and you can see that he's wearing a full foul weather gear. This is just like an internet photo of Vigo, but just to share with you the kind of the climb, which was great getting off the boat. The city offered 2 things: tremendous seafood and also the ability to work your legs after having been on a boat for so long. This is also kind of a crappy photo that I picked up off the internet today, but the city is full of escalators because of its steepness. And I was reading today that somewhere, I didn't see it, but there's a 5-block long escalator just to assist with folks in the community, but it was really fun. This is us in the marina. I spent 3 nights in Vigo before I took off, and I cleaned my bunk and found a hotel room that was pretty close that had a great shower. This is me being pretty happy out there, taking photos of myself. This is just another shot that I really loved. All these folks out shopping in Vigo. I really enjoyed the city. This is a cool statue that was right off the boat. Our boat's right over here. This was like the first photo I took when we got to Vigo. Also just a nice park by the boat, and then also kind of looking off across the bay. Also, I left Maine in April. I go to Florida, which is super hot, and then I get to Vigo, and it's like full on, like kind of early summer. So there was that kind of that joyful feeling of like getting early summer by being in Europe versus Maine. Palm trees, which I really love, and seafood. I ate a ton of seafood. So the best calamari of my life happened in Vigo, and these are scallops, whole scallops, which we don't often serve we don't often cook the whole scallop here. So it's really great to eat them this way on the half shell. And I'm not a person that takes photos of their food, just for the record, so that means that it was really, really good. Back to just kind of that European culture, like I just loved, this was, Bill and I were out having a glass of wine before dinner, and I don't know, it's 4:30, 5 p.m. and kids and dogs and friends, and this just this vibrancy. It was just really, I love this part of Europe, and was really glad that I got to see it. And a ton of dogs in this city, very dog friendly, which made me start missing my dog. Just some more cool art in Vigo. I also really loved just this, so I took a photo of it. And then this is it. That's us. That's me sailing across the Atlantic. That's it.
Questions from the audience? Now, we're going to have to repeat them for the people on Zoom. So yes, go ahead.
Where was the boat eventually headed for?
Oh, good question. So I got off in Vigo. All of us got off in Vigo except for David, the owner. His wife met him, and their intention was to just sail in like northern Spain and northern France. Also, his goal was, he was 73 years old. He said that he wanted to own the boat for 3 years and that he would age out at 76. So his intention was to sail a lot for the next 3 years with friends and family, and then sell the boat.
76.
So that means we can buy this
Half the
boat.
people in this room are older than 76.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Questions? Yes.
Was it weather routing service or did you just use your weather?
Repeat the question.
Did we use a weather routing service or did we just use Windy? So we used Predict Wind, and we paid for that service. And what that means, y'all, is that you have access to 4 different routes. You can choose your routes twice a day, which is at 7 a.m. and 3 p.m. And it's going to take you, enter in all of your the length of your vessel, the make, all the information about your vessel, and then it spits out to you the route that you should take based upon wind conditions. And it allows you to, you can also plug in, like, I don't want to use my engine, and then it will incorporate that into your route. And that changes, you have the option to change that twice a day at 7 and 3 p.m. So I try not to pay for my apps, so I just use Windy, and would just use that to confirm what I was hearing from the captain. So, but great question.
Question from the peanut gallery over here.
So on the app picture that you had of all those ships in the area, there are different colors to the arrows. Do they stand for anything?
So the question is, for the AIS, do the colors represent different things? Good question. I don't think so. Because when you saw the later one that was all blue, all of those vessels were different. Some of those were sailboats just like us, and then some of them were those cargo vessels. So I think that was just to demonstrate, if they were all the same color, it would be hard to see on that particular slide. So, but great question.
Any other question? Yes.
You said you chose the hardest or the longest route, but were you the captain on board? Did y'all make that decision together? How'd that happen?
So Ben is asking, is referring to how I stated that we took the hardest route and asked if I got to make the calls essentially. So I was paid crew, Bill was the captain. He definitely made all weather decisions and I supported him. And the hardest part was that the boat was in Grenada, got moved up to Martinique to get the work done, and then he could have chosen to sail anywhere on the kind of western seaboard of Europe. And originally we were going to sail to Spain, but because of the prevailing winds off of Spain, he didn't want to sail close hauled with his wife northbound. So we got him as far north as possible, and then we all stepped off. So he chose the start and end, and then everything in between Bill chose. So.
Questions? Yes.
What was your average speed?
So the question is, what was our average speed? I would say 8 to 9 knots. Yeah. So at the end of my watch, we had gone approximately 25 nautical miles. And so while I fell asleep, we went an additional 75 miles. So at some point you just start playing with the numbers and trying to predict when you're going to get there. And it's, there's only so many books you can read. So, yeah.
So, we have another question. Yes, sir.
How long was the whole journey start to finish?
About 30 days, and I don't have the nautical miles, but less than 4,000 and more than 3,000. Only because we didn't go in a straight line. So.
Yes. Another one.
Oh, great question. I would only do it again if I was going to do it with friends. And I would do it again with friends because I think it would be incredibly fun to sit under the stars and have big conversations and listen to music and cook food together and
be the captain.
sure.
Yes, Dan, another one.
To that point, like, if you're not in the cockpit with the other sailors, like, did you come off that ship feeling like these are my best buds? Like, I don't know, did you make really good friends on that cruise?
So Bill and I had been friends, and we will remain good friends, and hopefully I'll sail with him again in the future. And the other answer is no. And part of that, I think, is Starlink and these devices from keeping you to having those bigger conversations together, because you can distract yourself with the phones. So
I see one more question.
oh, that's great. I actually wrote it down, Vivian, in a journal so I wouldn't forget, but I have forgotten. So sorry, I could share it with you some other time. But I did write them down because I knew I would forget. Oh, what books did I read? Yeah.
So,
Cool.
are you good?
I'm
Go
done.
ahead.
Oh, I'm done. Thank you, everybody, for being here.